Jonathan Bragg. I'm the director of our Mindset Labs team here at Mindset. So we have a couple of different things that we do. We talk a lot about technology, of course, R&D and labs. We're always looking at what's the latest and greatest in SAP. So a lot of that this year has revolved around the SAP BTP platform, just what you can do with it, the different services that are out there, what types of automations or functionalities really make sense for customers. We always come in with the lens of, SAP BTP is not going to be the savior and the end all be all, but there's some things out there that definitely are worth looking at. The other side of the house is more of our accelerators. And so what our accelerators are is we've taken 10, 15, 20 different common pain points that we see within the SAP industry, especially when it comes to user experience, and developed templates and solutions off of that, just based on what we hear from a lot of different clients. My team is kind of an internal team. We can take a lot of different inputs from different customers and really create a solution that works for all as a baseline. And so plant maintenance is a huge one. I think we probably said it during design thinking, and you guys know it very well, right? That there are big usability benefits to doing something within the plant maintenance space, whether that's, I can now create a notification on a phone. I can take a picture of a machine or a part or something that's out there that needs some detail and add a notification very quickly that needs to get spun into a work order. Or I can, as a tech, whether I have a tablet or I don't have to run back and forth to a kiosk or things like that, I can start to use some of these experiences to make sure that I get more of that wrench time, right? So the goal here for all these applications is to increase ROI, but also increase that end user satisfaction. So hopefully those technicians using these tools can save 10, 15 minutes per work order just on all the documentation they have to do. I think, Mike, you're probably super familiar with the SAP T codes that do this, like IW31 and all those guys. There's tabs on tabs on tabs on tabs of different things you can go through to try to enter and look at. And so that's what we're trying to resolve is, what do you actually need as a baseline to get a notification to a work order, to parts, to fixing something, to confirmed and closed. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and feel free, jump in at any time along the way. Peter reached out to me last week along with Michael just to put something a little bit together for this. So I'm going to share, let's see, make sure we've got all the right screens going on. So we customized this a little bit today for you guys. And so this is a Fiori launchpad for Southwire plant maintenance technicians, basically. So what we've developed as a baseline for either installation or things that can be done very quickly on an accelerator fashion and enhanced from there in your environment are 4 different applications. So we're fairly focused on the notification creation itself, the work order and how we work through that work order and what details are in there, the time confirmation, so actually getting that fully closed out. And then what we heard from a lot of folks is that there's no real standard out of the box dashboards. Like what are the top 10 pieces of equipment that keep going on? What are the metrics and KPIs that are interesting to us from a plant maintenance space to actually be a little bit more thoughtful, try to get more to that preventative side of things. So those are the things we're going to go through here within those apps. The other thing, and sorry, my Zoom windows over top of my screen here, just a second. Okay. The other thing we can go through is more to your area, Steve, is what other types of accelerators, what type of platforms are out there, and we'll try to save 5 minutes of time at the end to talk about the Merlin platform here, which is really how we do a lot of problem finding with standard T codes to standard Fiori apps and where there's a match maybe for different areas.
Sounds good. Say, Mike, I can't remember. I know we are implementing project systems as well at the end of the month. And just to let you know, I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. And I think that does affect plant maintenance a little bit too. I'm not sure. don't recall if we're bringing them into the mix on that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, Steve. So
Okay.
who should I be talking to?
I pinged Kay on that, but Kay Maxwell.
Okay. All right.
And Steve, in that functionality, are you doing the full like approval for expenditure, project systems, EJ20N, all that fun stuff?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Okay. We can
I
come
got
back
a
to that.
couple project systems going on. One from actually the services and resource related billing, as well as then replace our CapEx process.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'm gonna jump into the plant maintenance apps here, just from a technical standpoint, where these sit. This sits on top of our SAP BTP environment. These are apps that are hosted there. This is a launchpad that's also there technically. If you have any questions about any of those things, feel free to jump in. I'll try to stick mostly to the functionalities of the apps outside of the quick technical talk here. So I'm going to start with a notification, since that's usually where the process starts for folks. In the notifications app itself, we just have a couple of things out here as sample data of equipment. But basically, what we're saying as a starting point is we have a piece of equipment, and we can either search for those pieces of equipment by the equipment itself, so my ID, or I can switch that around and look at functional location itself. So if I already know where this is, a lot of plants I see will already have a QR code on an exact piece of machinery that matches up with an SAP, either functional location or a serial number for that product, and they're automatically taken to that. We've had success in doing that with a lot of field service, so where they'll stick QR codes on individualized pieces of equipment to make sure on a phone, I just take a picture, I know I'm working on the right piece of equipment right away. But I'm gonna select the first here. I have a scale that I need to work on, and trying to be as a template simple as possible here. So I need to create a notification. I don't usually know whether this is only going to be a maintenance staff that's going to get a notification application, or should we give this to absolutely everybody in the plant and make sure it's easy enough for people to use, that if I see something, it's kind of the old see something, say something approach of, I can take a picture, I can add a note. Maybe I don't even know what machine it is, but I can put something in just to make sure that somebody follows up on it. So the information, I get my piece of equipment, some descriptions. I can change different priorities. If this is something I want to make sure it's down and not working. And there's some different codings in the backend system where if this is a required field, there's different coding, and we just have some samples here of code 1, 2, 3, depending on how people's systems are set up. But going through, we can get a reported by person based on who this should go to, and then the created by is whoever is logged into the system at that point. A big ask for this out of the box, and it's in our backlog to even put in our accelerator here, is an attachment right away. So being able to add a photo attachment or some sort of, whether it's a document, whether it's other pictures of things, those can be added into this app as well. And then the notes. So notes a lot of times are for technicians. We'll see a history of what's out there. What we usually see, and there's some different layouts to do notes. What we like about this is that it captures the full history. It's a bit interesting in the back end of SAP. Sometimes you get those, the note boxes that don't append the new note. So you get to see the full history. We're trying to make sure that everything can come through, so we get a full history on this notification itself. And then that's basically it for our notification itself. There can be other required fields, there can be other things that get added in, but again, as a baseline of where to start for notifications for a lot of different customers, this is a really good starting point for that. The notifications, once you do submit that, you come back to your original screen here within the notifications app. This is a little bit more designed to be on a mobile device. So we're kind of, we're looking at a screen size that's fairly small, and it's quick hit. We want to find problems, we want to get those over to work orders. as soon as possible. Quick questions there, otherwise I can move into work orders.
All right, keep going, John. Thanks.
Yeah, you're good.
So the next one is my maintenance order. So this is where we see, what we try to do again from a baseline perspective is see exactly what's needed from backend SAP. And there's a few different ways to lay this out. This has been the most popular, just from taking people out of IW31 and getting something here within Fiori, because it's not changing all the things that they see, but it's consolidating down on a lot of the different data points that they need to enter and the different things they need to see. So usually people are using this on a tablet device. They're walking around the plant and working on different things. And when they go into their work orders, they see things that are assigned specifically to them, sorted by priority. So I know there's only one very high in my queue. I shouldn't even look at highs and mediums because I have to get this done before something else shows up. So I can select over to high and see what else is in my list, or medium even, see if there's anything out there that's maybe more preventative that is not a very high breakdown. But the very first thing that pops up in my list should be what I'm concerned about when working, and that auto loads the screen to the right. So always the first thing, the highest priority in the list is going to load over here on the right hand side. I can also search, if I have a huge list of work orders out there that are assigned to me. And again, the big point here is I'm only seeing things that are assigned to me. I don't have to search or filter on who's working on what. If my technician name as a username is in there, that's exactly what's in my work order list. So from here, it's a fairly standard area of some header information. And then we get into the different actual areas of what's happening. So matching a little bit of the backend structure of our operations, our components, and then attachments that are out there. This is where the biggest customizations we see this app is just wording a lot of times. So do we still want to call that operations for folks, or is that confusing for new text coming in? Operations are, who's working on this? Who's assigned? Where are they? Components are parts. There's a lot of nomenclature that can be changed in Fiori based on where SAP sat 20, 30 years ago when they were creating the plant maintenance module versus new users coming into the tool sets today, especially as you're hiring a new team to be able to come in.
Mike,
So,
do we prioritize today?
Yeah, we do prioritize and assign work to an individual technician in most of the plants today. There's some plants that are still just leaving it up to the technician to go to the next. All the jobs are assigned to a plant or a department, and then the technicians will pull off of that department list. When they finish one job, they go to the next. So we have not
Okay.
addressed
I was just
it all
curious.
yet, but we're working on that too. So yep.
Okay, cool.
And so from this, as people come in and they want to update things or add attachments, there's small, very easy buttons to be able to add attachments. I can edit this entire area of, maybe I see this was entered as a very high. It's probably, maybe it's not a breakdown. Maybe it's something that's a little bit lower on the list than what else is in my queue. I can change some of those things as long as I'm allowed in the backend, based on business rules, of course. Operations, if I'm adding more people, more things, I'm adding lines to a table here. Other things that we see a lot, I've never met a technician that cares about the line number too much. We just want to know the materials out there. We need this for the backend just to make sure we're creating our lines in the table. Those are things that can be auto filled. So different folks can like different things in the different areas for components and operations that we've seen. So we keep it in there, but they're all very easy adds and deletes. Going on from our maintenance order itself, so kind of the usability of this is we can collapse things. We can make it very big on our screen. We can collapse this sidebar if we want. We can filter on different items. So there's all of that standard functionality built into basically any of the apps you see today. Save and edit buttons anywhere that we want. And this is what actually sends the data back to SAP is on that save button. So that's maintenance orders at a high level. Jumping back out to the Launchpad here, we can also go through time confirmations. So time confirmations is again, going through that confirmation T code in the back end. So we're looking at all the required fields that are needed to close out this work order. So we know that these work orders are out here and need to be updated. We can do that with our time entry and then also see our history from the order. And so these are very high level. A lot of confirmations that we've seen focus only on editing time and making sure all other activities are closed. So coming from the work order over to the confirmation, I think business process wise, we can't create the confirmation until all of those work order operations and header items are complete. We're already doing that check before they show up here. And we're just looking at dates, times, durations, so we can get all the financial materials on their way after we submit this. And we always have the option to actually email other folks along here in some of the standard functionalities. Again, that's just if we want to make sure and send folks, hey, this one is done. This one's ready for rework or ready for that production line to open again. So that's very, very high level time confirmation. And I'll keep moving here, then we can pause for questions. The last one, but probably the most important one to me, as far as from what you said, Mike, just getting a little bit more of that leadership involved in the plant maintenance space. It's what are those 5 to 10 KPIs that we need to keep a track of every single day at every single plant. And we heard this time and time again. This is probably the biggest departure of what standard PM is in back in SAP versus what we've created. Is there was no dashboard. There was no view as a leader or as basically that plant's head technician or a service technician leader that could be assigned this for their plant to see, okay, how much do we have out there? What's completed? What's non-completed? What asset IDs are out there from a work order perspective? What's been open for more than 30 days? What types of actions are we taking on all of these equipment out there to start to see, is this 100% corrective action, or is it more calibrations, inspections, preventative maintenance? Where are we spending all of our time very quickly off the board? And then the last one here is, where are the problems and where do they keep coming up? And it's very dependent on how good the backend data is. You see some of the things that we pull from a system is general building mechanical. That code in plant maintenance could be anything from a light bulb to I can't get in the door. So the better the data is in the background, the better we can pull these dashboards together to get to a lot of this information. But even in what you see here, this is all changeable based on the KPIs that are important to you. And what's important from a Southwire leadership perspective. So I just from listening, it sounds like problematic assets would be a really good metric. It sounds like PM corrective by asset ID. So what type of maintenance we're doing would be pretty important. And then maybe what's hanging out there, what's not being closed out, and how are we working to make sure those get closed out as soon as they possibly can. So this is something that when I demo this, a lot of people get excited about this app just because they haven't seen these metrics together before, and this is just something that Fiori can do in different aspects and different areas, is pull this information together and make it very visual and very actionable for folks. So I'll pause there. That's kind of when I was looking at some of the original design thinking outputs, it really looked like 3 or 4 of these apps lined up at a baseline to what you guys went through from a design thinking workshop team. And these are fairly standardized components, but the real goal here is over between if you've got 500, 800, 1,000 service technicians out there at each one of these plants, or over the plants overall, if I'm saving 15 minutes per work order and I've got 15 more minutes of wrench time, that can really add up over a year. And that's exactly what we're trying to get to here is let's make the technology piece not the hard part anymore for them. So I'll pause there. Any questions on any of these apps? Anything I can kind of deep dive into a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't excuse me, I don't have any questions, John, but you're absolutely right about the analytics and dashboards, right? It is something that to be able to do it and do it quickly and I don't want to say real time, but is whatever, even if it's the day before, whatever, to look at this and be able to slice it and dice it. What did I do yesterday? What have I done last week or last month? And by plant, by technician, being able to do all that. We have some of that today, but nowhere near enough, right? We're collecting, and this is, Southwire in general across the board. We're collecting a ton of data. What we're doing with it, and we're working with KPMG to help us understand our digital platforms that we have and our digital transformation, and what are we doing with all this data? We got it all. It's just how do we, how do we display it? How do we show it? And then how do we act upon it, right? It's great to have all these fancy charts and graphs, but if someone's not doing, and then again, it's about improving the trend lines, right? Really, it's got to get after some of that stuff. And we got it, but it takes people a lot of time to gather some of this data and report back on it. And by that time, it's a week late or it's 2 weeks late, and I just don't think it's impactful enough. To have it real time would be wonderful in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly the feedback we get. And we did an interesting study from the warehouse side of things where they were paying a data analyst. They were spending 50% of their time every single day putting metrics together just for the next morning for folks. And if we spent that time in putting a dashboard together, this becomes part of our Lean Six Sigma stand up in the morning. We can look at what's out there. We can see exactly in real time where we're really at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Just quick time check. I know we're scheduled to be at a stop at 11:45. Thanks for showing that, John. One of the things Peter brought up was the Merlin application that we do have. We kind of wanted to highlight that and show that to you guys. Also, as you continue to go through your process of evaluating everything and going through, like this tool, I think could be beneficial down the road for you guys to help identify which applications maybe to go online first with, right? So John, if you don't mind just kind of highlighting Merlin a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do. And just as a transition point, kind of how these work. We've got a couple of different ways we can deploy these types of things in packages, either to BTP or into an ECC or S4 system hosted by you. And we really just look at it as let's get the template installed. Let's do a little bit of design confirmation. Let's see where we want to customize it, and then boom, we're live. So it's a really good acceleration piece to be able to do for some of the things. And it's not it's not mutually exclusive to, hey, we need to do all 4 of these apps in plant maintenance, do something. We can also choose, if the plant maintenance dashboard makes a lot of sense to get in front of folks, we can focus only on that one as well. So yeah, jumping over to Merlin a little bit. So this is some fun naming conventions because Merlin is, 1, a wizard, and 2, we think of as fairly magical as far as what you can see out of some statistics here. But basically, coming from a SAP backend, there's a few different things. And to set this up in the couple minutes we have left is we want to know, based on our SAP system usage today, what SAP Fiori applications standard from SAP may make sense to implement. And once we figure out those applications, let's automate the installation of them and get them into an environment to take a look at. So that's end to end what this tool does. So our very first problem here is we need some system data. We need to know exactly how people are using SAP. So in our initiation screen here, we're looking at, I can type in some T codes, or I have a basis report where I can upload and import a what's called a ST03 trace. And that is a monthly usage of an SAP system transactionally. So today I'm just going to enter a couple T codes for us to take a look quick. And so I can also select the exact version of SAP that I'm on. I'm sure anytime you guys have gone out to the SAP Fiori apps library to see what's out there, it's, you know, there's 15,000 apps available. That's great. I'm sure there's something for me. I'll narrow down on your exact version. There's probably 4,000 at best, you know, depending on your different deployments and where you're at. So I'll just pick a version at random here, and we'll stick with our plant maintenance theme for a second, unless Steve, you've got a finance T code off the top of your head we can look at as well.
I was gonna rattle off just we call it 28 report. I can get you the full tran code, or just a display report for right now. FPL 1N.
FPL 1N. Oh yeah. Okay. So with those, let's see. Let's make sure I'm correct here in my nomenclature. So what this is doing is it's going out to that standard SAP Fiori apps library. We're using that as a live source. So anytime that gets updated, this gets updated, and we can see exactly what T codes and apps line up to each other based on that system version that we put in as well. So we can start to look and we can start to analyze, okay, FBL1N, maybe I'm only looking at my overdue payables and I know I'm on S4, and look at this application type. It's luckily not just a SAP GUI transaction where we're going back into the back end to do the same GUI stuff we could do there anyway. We should see some cool things in this. So if I were to say, I want to take a look at this in more detail, I can click the link. This is going to take me straight to that reference library for this specific app to get just real details on this specific application that I want to look at. Maybe some screenshots here as well. Some implementation information if you want it. Otherwise, we can select that and take that forward to actually go ahead and install. Different things that we can look at here. We can look at, you know, what are the standard SAP things to get this into a Fiori Launchpad. As we automate this process, we shouldn't even need to look at these too much. You should be able to be selecting these along the way. But basically from here, yeah, we select what we might want to install. Let's do one of each here. So we can process a maintenance order and our overdue payables. Hit next, and we know now that we can either log in to give connection details to your specific system, development system you want this installed in. That takes a cloud connector, a secure connection to make sure our application and your system are talking very securely. And we can go into your backend and make sure that these applications, these business roles, basically all of the technical details that are here are available and able to be configured to be able to use. And then once we proceed through here, we're actually just creating catalogs, groups, roles for each of these areas. So it looks like I did the service technician as my last demo as well. So our business catalog is already here in this version. But basically, we're just building out the Launchpad from here. And as we come out, we can see exactly who we want to assign this to. So I have my service technician role, my catalog, my group. So it's really just it's a low code way and no code way to make sure we can install standard applications very well. But from our initial question, you know, where do we start? That's on our initiation screen here. You know, we're really looking at what's our SAP version we're on today. Maybe I want to run this again on what we're going to tomorrow, seeing the application differences, seeing maybe where our pain points are lined up from that, and being able to pull those together and actually install and try out some of these apps that are available for free. The next thing that we're working on here is analyzing a lot of the Z transactions that come out as well. So a lot of customization areas in back end of SAP. Are there things that meet those criteria within Fiori, or things that can be worked on pretty easily? So I'll pause there for today. I know we only have another minute to wrap up here, but yeah, thanks for your time, and I hope this was beneficial to you guys.